We're going to be talking today about FileMaker 2025. I'm talking specifically about a script step called Generate Response from Model. This is a very exciting new feature, but if this does not convince you to upgrade, that is okay. There are 2 more speakers after me, and we are known for our persistence. So I'm going to just very briefly just show you what this looks like, and we'll sort of look like, okay, how did we used to do things in the past? This is our new script step right here. So you can see a lot of bells and whistles, and this is maybe the best possible way they could have done it, because the way it was in the past, this is in fact a file from Ronnie Rios at Claris. You would have to build up each of your individual elements, and it's pretty arcane. Okay. Now, a lot of these things are just now attached to a button or a switch or something within this script step. And I don't know, but between you and me, I really like the new way. Now, as I said, this is exciting. It's also incredibly complex. We are not going to go into every bit of this. That would take hours, double digits probably, to fully understand. So don't consider this something like Jacques Cousteau exploring all the wonders of the ocean floor. This is more like the Fonz sort of skimming along the surface of the water on water skis. Okay? So we have previously demoed this sort of thing before. Let's get my actual file back up right here, because we've been talking about AI. This is unavoidable, but the LLM that I'm going to be working with, we have also, once I said, worked with before through Cohere. You're not limited to using Cohere. You can really use anything you want to, but it's a very easy way to get it set up, especially if, like me, you're just trying to learn about how this stuff works. And I love how Paul put it before. If he can do it, anyone can. I would say the same thing for myself. This isn't that big of a lift. It's actually pretty simple. So once again, I'm using Cohere's API, and I'm on the free tier. That absolutely matters. I'll show you where that comes into play later. Okay? So here's my little sample file, and I want you guys to put on your imagination caps. Let's suppose you're a zookeeper. And in fact, some of you actually still want to be zookeepers. I don't know who you are, but let's suppose you're a zookeeper. You have some sort of bird installation, and often at zoos, you're going to have some sort of kiosk, and they're interesting. And maybe you have like some sort of static content where you can sort of touch screen, hit a button, animal pops up, and you get more information. Well, once again, they're static. It's as soon as you have an animal change out, well, now you have to update the kiosk, and it's only going to serve the data points of which you decide to cover whenever you install it. So it's just a treadmill that you're going to have to keep running on forever. And this is historically how we've done things, not just in zoos, but everywhere. So when you start leveraging LLMs, once again, doesn't have to be Cohere. It could be something that you manage. You can make it entirely private. When you start leveraging LLMs, the possibilities of interacting with data expand wildly. Often for good, sometimes for bad, but often it's just going to greatly increase the possibilities for users and to find meaningful content. So let's suppose you are somehow running FileMaker on your little kiosk right here, okay? So I'm just going to type in a very general bird name, nothing too specific, and I am going to say puffin. Let's suppose I'm at a puffin exhibit. Let's see how this goes here. And it's going to feed that into Generate Response from Model. And it's just going to get me some basic types of puffins. All right? Now, I'm going to show you one thing right now, which is already, for me, just a game changer in working with this kind of stuff. I'm going to ask it a secondary question, but I'm not going to mention the word puffin. I'm going to say something like, okay, what is the estimated global population? I didn't say puffin. I didn't even say bird. All right, when I click outside there, it's going to send that back. And look, it says the global population of puffins vary by species, and it starts breaking it down by the type. Now, this is because within Generate Response from Model, you can both dictate all the messages that you're sending off to it and all the messages going back. So you're working with a context that you can manage. There's one specific part that really needs to be stated. You can specify the message size. You don't have to let this thing grow infinitely. If you had a kiosk at a zoo, I mean, I guess it technically could, but in most cases you probably wouldn't. User interaction is probably a matter of minutes. They move on. So you specify the message history there. So once again, you're controlling all the data going in and all the data going out. And every request that you build is done within that context. So it's pretty cool. It's just really you pop in a variable or a field there and it works. So let's suppose I know what type of puffin I actually really want to talk about. And it gave me a common name, the Atlantic puffin. Okay, cool. So some extra objects appear. And I'm just going to try this right here. I'll give you some disclaimers also with what's happening. Cool. So I just hit a little button here. Once again, I just typed in puffin. I picked a common name of one of the types of puffins, and it returned the species name. Pretty cool. I can also just say, what is the average weight of the Atlantic puffin? It's going to give it to me in kilograms and actually pounds because that's more meaningful to me. And then the height as well. All right. Now, disclaimer, we're doing this in a demo. Nothing is necessarily faked, but things are a little bit greased to make it move faster. I'm not necessarily fully leveraging the history. I'm just passing in that word right here, Atlantic puffin. Things go faster. I think whenever I was testing this with Mark, there was a lot of beach balling, and that's problematic. We definitely don't want that in a demo. That is not a limitation of Generate Response from Model, or even necessarily the Cohere API. This is a factor of billing. I'm paying this many dollars for this. So if you spend more than this many dollars, you may not have to do that. You can make things more abstract, flexible. This right here also, I can just hit pull image, and it does just a little search on Wikipedia. I pull in an image. Pretty cool. That's actually not even related to Generate Response Model. That's just kind of a flex. So a few of the features I want to show you. There's a notion of stream, tools, and temperature. Tools is interesting. I bet there is a use case for it. I don't quite get it, but I'll tell you abstractly how it works. Let's suppose I have a function that says like bird height or bird taller or something. I can define that and just pass two birds at it. And when I can just basically say ostrich, puffin, I just point it at the function and it will sort of do the math for me. I don't necessarily have to say which bird is taller. It's going to pick it for me because I can define it as a tool and then leverage that within future queries. The stream mode, pretty cool. I'm going to turn it on. This is an option once again. Right there. Now, so you can kind of see this. Sometimes the queries take a little while. Let's suppose you want a little bit more rapid visual response. So I'm going to say something like, are they endangered? Let's scroll up just a little bit. Yeah. So this is kind of a demo thing right now. We only got so much space. We're trying to get everything fitting on all the screens. Once I click outside, it's not waiting for a response. It's sort of like, I've heard it put like building the sandwich as you're eating it. So just kind of, that's stream mode. I think it looks pretty cool. I think at the last Engage, this is something that Ronnie Rios was using and just looks really neat to me. So there's that. Maybe one other thing I want to show. There is this option right here called Perform JavaScript in WebViewer. And so really you could let's say you have some sort of request like, okay, how tall is this bird? And the response of what you get from whatever LLM you're talking to can be immediately fed back into a web viewer. Now, web viewers are super neat. They greatly expand how your FileMaker layouts can look. We're going to hit the Peck to Perceive button right here. And we have a visual representation. And my button's cut off. That's unfortunate. We're going to zoom. Nope, exact opposite of what I wanted. All right, cool. And hit Peck to Perceive, the visual representation of a 6-foot human, not Alex as a human, but so we have a 6-foot human, and I'm going to run the generate response from model script step, and I've sort of hard-coded to say, how tall is this bird? And I'm going to be very, very specific with it. I don't want any extra text. I just want it to say, get me a figure in meters, return nothing else. When I get the data back, it's going to pass it directly into the JavaScript of which this web viewer is built. And there we go. So any user could come up to the kiosk and they say, how tall is this really? And they could put in their own height. They could compare it to whatever animals in the exhibit. So that's kind of what's going on. And this display bird height. You guys want to see something else? You want to pick a different bird? Yeah. What do we want? Flamingo. All right. Let's see how big those are. We want something bigger than a puffin. That's good. All right, cool. And we're going to say specifically the Chilean flamingo. Cool, we got that. Got the Chilean one. Average weight, average height. Side note, if you try emu, weird stuff happens. Don't do that. It starts pulling in pictures of like universities. So anyway, once again, a lot of this stuff is great. There are some edge cases. I'm going to hit Peck to Perceive, and it should be a lot bigger than the puffin. There we go. Cool. 3'7" Chilean flamingo right there. So maybe some of you are asking why. I'm not a zookeeper. Fair enough. Probably most of you aren't. All of you are here because you have some sort of interest in FileMaker. Some of you are business owners. Probably all of you either are or connected to FileMaker users. So the alternative would be, great, go out to a website. Go to ChatGPT, go to Grok, start doing your requests there. That can work, even if you're paying money for it. But do you really want to give the chance of distraction, okay? The web, once again, like we saw with this, it's a wonderful place. It is terribly distracting, at times terribly inefficient. Do you want to send off your user to say, yeah, open up this tab, and they suddenly look, oh, I could check Reddit. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. You don't want that. You want your users immersed, okay? Secondarily, you get to control billing. You have this pipe of what you're defining right here, because everything's integrated. You get to say, this is exactly how much I want to spend. It's all done from FileMaker. Finally, I would say data retention. If you're doing everything through a web browser, even if you're paying for it, you don't get to control what data you keep. If you integrate it with some other system, like we've done here, you have all your data, all your requests, all the responses stored locally. You can do whatever. Once again, you do have to specify a message history count. That number can be whatever you want. Because we're smart FileMaker developers, we can start exporting stuff out. You don't have to lose anything. So I would strongly recommend you guys look at this. I didn't know a whole lot about this a few weeks ago, and I'm kind of figured it out. It's pretty neat. So once again, thank you for your time. This is Generate Response from Model.